Oh my god, I'm having a fringe disaster today. What is this? Oh, whatever, I just don't care. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel where we talk about witchcraft and we talk about writing and all things spooky. So if you like either of those things, then I suggest you subscribe and give this video a like, just to support me and my little channel. Today we have a very exciting one, which I know I say that every single time, but it is always true. So today we are going to be looking at spells. And this is a poetry collection. It's an anthology, so it's got lots of different people's works in it, but it is actually edited by Sarah Shin and Rebecca Tamas. Now, Rebecca Tamas is one of my favourite poets, so I had very high expectations for this, and they were met. I mean, when you have a collection of poems by lots of different poets, then of course there's going to be some that you prefer more than others. That's just life. But overall, I was very pleasantly surprised, so I thought I would give it a little video on this channel, and yeah, let's dive into it. So the book is called Spells 21st Century Occult Poetry, and that is just an awesome title, and the cover's got this cool little window in it as well, which I think I've shown before. I have talked about this before on my channel. I think it was in the books to read during lockdown, I can't remember, but yeah, I have mentioned it before. But yeah, I just like that little detail. So in the back of this book, I know, yes, weird starting at the back, but it does have little tiny biographies of all the contributors. So I'm just going to read the biographies of Sarah Shin and Rebecca Tamas, who edited this collection. So Sarah Shin is a publisher and curator. She is a co-founder and director of Silver Press and Ignota Books, and the founder of New Suns, a curatorial project that launched with New Suns, a feminist literary festival at the Barbican Centre. She is on the advisory board of the Poetry Translation Centre. Previously, she worked at Verso Books for a decade. And Rebecca Tamas was born in London and currently lives in York, where she lectures at York St John University. Her first full-length collection, which is really good, and I also want to do a video on, but that was published by Penned in the Margins in 2019. She's published 3 pamphlets of poetry, the Ophelia Letters, Savage and Tiger. So that is our editors, and that's kind of where they're coming from. I'm going to read you, I'm just going to look at my laptop here because it's a lot. Spells 21st Century Occult Poetry brings together 36 contemporary voices exploring the territory between the occult and the subversion of patriarchy. Occult poetics is a method of self-determination and transformation through a summoning of the world, through remaking reality. Capable of holding the contradictions of identity and trauma, poetry as magical language is talismanic, offering a sacred space away from everyday experiences of oppression. Spells honours the world of feeling, the world of the unconscious, the world of the body, desires and practices that are messy and diverse, as well as joyful, fun and celebratory. And that is just so incredible. That's just everything that, I mean, that's why I write poetry, really, to kind of deal with a lot of trauma that I've experienced, and I think that's why so many people are drawn to writing in general, but particularly poetry. Oh, that's a bit better, isn't it? Yeah. But I think that's why a lot of people are drawn to writing in general, but particularly poetry, because it is just so powerful for really exploring and delving into those emotions and for saying things that are difficult to say otherwise. So I'm going to read you a little section from the introduction here. And the introduction is actually by Somaya. It contains quotes from a few of the poems as well. So the book begins here with a little quote from Ursula Le Guin, who is a very famous writer. She wrote the Earthsea series and I absolutely love it. I'm kind of in the middle of it now, so yeah, I'm in a bit of an Ursula Le Guin, kick right now. And she's also written a book, she's written lots of books, but she's written a poem in this book too. So the quote from her is, "Magic exists in most societies in one way or another, and one of the forms it exists in a lot of places is If you know a thing's true name, you have power over the thing, or the person. And of course it's irresistible because I'm a writer. I use words, and knowing the names of things is, I do magic, I do make up things that didn't exist before by naming them. And then in Somay's introduction, a bit further on, she says, to be a witch then is to know words. To be a witch is to know in your bones, your tired bones, where the word witch might come from. Birth stories, origin myths are wandering and plural, partial, but yours. Not someone else's definition of yourself, but what you have learned through dangers untold and hardships unnumbered. The thing that you have to tell, have to say. And that's just so wonderful, and it's a really interesting kind of way of looking at it. And my witchcraft practice is all about sovereignty. So this fits so well into the idea of writing and self-expression as an act of sovereignty and an act of self-exploration as well. And that's a huge part, as I kind of said, of why I write personally. So I just love this introduction. It's very long, so I'm not going to read all of it. You'll have to get the book for yourself if you want to read the whole thing. There are loads of different themes in this book. We've got obviously spells, we've got themes of witchcraft, we've got tarot, we've got a section where earth, air, fire and water. Water. What's that one? Earth, air and fire there, which is just lovely, amazing. And titles like I Used to Be a Witch, Incantation Against Mum's Net, which I think is hilarious. My narrative costume is a witch without reputation. Poems on the Three of Swords, poems on the Hanged Man, and lots of tarot references in here, which just makes me so happy. What else do we have? Oh yeah, we've got one called The Mystics of YouTube as well, which I found absolutely brilliant and hilarious. There's also on page 81 a sigil, which I love. There we go. Sigil there. I thought that was ace. Obviously, poetry and witchcraft, it's just, as you can see, there are lots of different lengths of poems, different styles of poems, you know, different structures, lots of different kinds of poem in there. Now I've said that, I'm looking and they all look the same. There are different kinds, I swear, I'm not lying, I'm not making it up. Whatever. Anyway, now we shall discuss the quality of the poems, because that's really the most important thing in a poetry collection, is if the poems are any damn good. So, the first poem I want to talk about is on page 2, and it's called Banshee, and it's by Rachel Allen. And as you can see, I have scribbled all over this. So I'll read it out to you now, and then I'll go in a bit more detail and a bit of analysis and why I think it is. So, he'll sit in the window at an innocent date, with wandering hands over a port green stool. There's the kitchen where I was murdered, where I was delivered into a weapon with force, like a small model forester, axing up plastic logs in a red wooden clog. Murdered by a man, the sanctity of communion. I was never alone. The heavy smell of blood misted up past the crockery, and the murdered girls before me, gathered up in plain cotton, the scars of my limbs and the nub of my treatment. My hair was clotted, pattern of wallpaper, like a tapestry of rabbits, and we left with my body, but do not forgive so easily as that. Tonight I laugh, walking towards his dark house. My head's a dun lantern, with split ends uplifted. My hands are barbed knots to take it back, for I'm fury with a shell, and I'm petty. The old boundary walls where I leaned in the summer, swaying in my peripherals. I don now a grey sheet, the dusk colour of bonbons, too seem more like a haunting. Light pulls through the mock glass, and the door he approaches, the red door approaches. So the first couple of lines, he'll sit in the window at an innocent date with wandering hands. So an innocent date could mean that it's not the anniversary of the killing. With wandering hands over a port green stool, so wandering hands has obvious connotations, but over a port green stool, you can kind of imagine just a normal day. This guy's just going about his normal day, whatever. There's the kitchen where I was murdered, where I was delivered into a weapon with force. So obviously he's in the kitchen chilling when actually he, you know, that's where this speaker was killed. The use of the word delivered is very interesting because it's usually delivery is a birth. It's that life and death, birth and murder balance, and a lot of violence as well in this poem. And I also think that where I was delivered, it reminds me of kind of a religious sort of deliver us kind of vibe. Like a small model forester axing up plastic logs in a red wooden clock. It reminds me, it's like, I think one of those cuckoo clocks, you know, where they kind of axe. But yeah, it's quite a childish and innocent image, very much contrasting with the horrible implication of what actually happened. And again, with religion, the sanctity of communion. And my favourite couple of lines in this poem are, the heavy smell of blood misted up past the crockery. I just, it's so like vivid and visual, and like just every sense is just like, oh my god. And the murdered girls before me gathered up in plain cotton the scores of my limbs and the nub of my treatment. That implies that, you know, obviously that this is a serial killer that's killed this girl, but the other girls came to look after her, tidy her away. It's the connotations of women cleaning and men's destruction, basically. A woman's compassion for each other and what we often go through. That's a big generalisation, obviously, but that's kind of what I get from this. We left with my body, but do not forgive so easily as that. That's obviously got kind of Valkyrie, even maybe the Morrigan type imagery actually, and the idea of women as a bridge between worlds. And then she says, tonight I laugh, which is sinister AF. I laugh walking towards his dark house, my head's a dun lantern. So it's like she's sort of illuminated, she's lifted up, she's transcended. It reminds me a bit of like a will-o'-the-wisp kind of thing, I don't know, like, and she's like towards his house, and it's just very freaky, and I love it. With split ends uplifted, another hair reference. My hands are barbed knots, very violent, for I'm fury with a shell, and I'm petty. So a hard exterior, and a shell obviously from a weapon, and a shell also implies that she's now safe and that she can't be harmed anymore. She says, the old boundary walls where I leaned in the summer, swaying in my peripherals. She obviously has seen these. Does she mean in the summer when she was alive, or does she mean in the summer when she was dead? Has she been trying to cross the boundary between this world and that to wreak her revenge, but now she finally can? Is it Samhain, so she can finally cross the border, which she's been sort of leaning on and waiting at and being like, come on, you know, checking the time? Or does that refer to when she was alive and she was like an innocent child, basically, or an innocent young woman, I don't know, kind of like, anyway. And then when she says the dusk colour of bonbons seem more like a haunting, that's very Samhain vibes as well, and Halloween-y vibes. And the final line, the final two lines, and the door he approaches, the red door approaches. So again, potentially Halloween vibes, like trick or treating. And the red door, now red doors feature in a lot of mythology and stories, and it really usually leads to no good. The red door. So, and obviously red has a plethora of violent connotations, which is always nice. And the repetition of the red door, the door he approaches, the red door approaches, it kind of indicates a tit for tat sort of thing. So like, he's made his move and now she's going to make hers. And that's the vibes that I get. So if you've got anything else to add to Banshee, then please do comment it in the comments below. And I really enjoy doing that, so I think I might maybe do a few more in-depth poetry reviews just of individual poems. I don't know. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in, because I do actually really enjoy doing that, so I would be more than happy to. So the next poem I'm going to discuss is called To Purge the Desire to Write Like a Man, and that's by Rebecca May Johnson, and another one that I've scribbled all over on all of the pages. This one is really interesting and it's very different. It's basically set out like a recipe for making tomato sauce, and it's really funny because this poem speaks to me on a lot of levels, because I kind of really value my own pasta sauce recipe. I really do. My own like tomato pasta sauce, I am like super proud of it, and it's always like, and also I've been recently trying to purge the desire to write like a man, because during my masters I was taught, my tutor was a man and he was brilliant, but I feel like I need more of a kind of feminine input now, and I just kind of, I know that when I do my PhD I absolutely want to have a female tutor. I shall read this. Enter the archive, it is your body. Remember, it is a great many things will become. Enter the kitchen, you will find your body. It is a genius. Will wield a sharp knife, a shallow pan, a wooden spoon, a fitting apron, to make tomato sauce. Put on the apron. Skin and slice 2 white cloves. Open 1 tin of ripe red tomatoes. Reserve 6 tablespoons of green olive oil. Add the cold green oil to the cold shallow pan. With the white sliced garlic, apply a gentle heat. And when the slices begin to dance, and when the perfume enters your nose, add the tomatoes. Shake the pan a little only. A slight bubble should bubble through now. Simmer gently for 20 minutes. Do not stir. Turn off the heat, add a caution of salt, stir and taste. Add your palate's satisfaction of salt, stir and taste. You are ready. Now I no longer wanted to write like a man, because I had children, and though I knew a great many things about tomato sauce, and even if I didn't put them in my story, it helped my vocation that I knew them. And I really, really love that. There's a couple of asterisks here, say found incantation, adapted from Sugo, Frisido di Pomodoro by Marcella Hazan via Ruth Rogers, and then Natalia Ginsberg, The Little Virtues, translated by Dick Davis. So it's referenced 2 poems there. But if I just go through this one, I love how it begins, enter the archive, it is your body, remember, because it's sort of harking back to both the housewife past and your own personal past. It is a great many things will become, and again that's all to do with authenticity to me, saying to remember who you are, remember your own potential. Enter the kitchen, you will find your body. It's as if the body is already there, so it's kind of a play on the woman's default to remain in the kitchen basically, but also kind of a finding yourself element as well. So it's full of contradictions and juxtapositions, which is, you know, just like womanhood. So it says here, it is a genius, will wield, and it seems ironic that genius would be used to describe such a simple sauce recipe, but it shows that there's no shame being a housewife or being typically feminine. There's nothing wrong with it, and that is an element of genius in itself. And here it lists the utensils, ending with a fitting apron. And again, female ideals, the idea of a fitting apron, it's fitting that you should be in the apron and the apron fits you. So it's also fitting as well that she wants to be, you know, in the apron. She doesn't want to be, you know, like a man. She wants to, yeah, be in the apron and cook. Skin and slice, again, quite violent, and so is wield a sharp knife. You know, there's again violent imagery in this, and there is throughout the whole book. So if you're someone that doesn't really like violence, then I would definitely suggest you give this one a miss. I mean, it's only sauce, this one, so I think we can cope with it. And then she says, add the cold green oil to the cold shallow pan, the nice repetition of cold there. With the white sliced garlic, apply a gentle heat. And when the slices begin to dance, so that's a contrast, and that harks to the change on a chemical level. So the cold green oil, the cold shallow pan, and then it starts to dance. It's this chemical changing of the way that the woman is perceiving herself. And again, with when the perfume enters your nose, it's incredibly sensory. And I'm sure you won't be surprised that after I finished annotating this, I went and made myself some pasta and sauce. Even though this is completely different from the way that I actually make it. But anyway, Shake the pan a little only, a slight bubble should bubble through now. Simmer gently for 20 minutes to allow the magic to work. It's kind of what I gained from that. It's obviously recipe, but for the magic to work. Now do not stir. The next line I found very interesting. Because does it mean don't rock the boat? I don't know if there's a bit of a kind of, you know, do not stir kind of vibe in it, and again that links to all the kind of contrasts that's within this. You know, you're told not to stir, not to shake things up, whatever a lot of the time, but it kind of seems like in this, you know, she doesn't actually want to, and I don't know, tell me what you think. Turn off the heat, add a caution of salt, and then add your palate's satisfaction of salt. Now the significance of salt in spell work is often, of course, to do with banishing and protection, so that's very witchy imagery, but it's also, again, another contrast. You know, you can use salt for a whole variety of things within magic, and it's again about tailoring the practice and tailoring the recipe, the recipe of life to what you want to do. Oh my god, that's so cringy, but you see what I'm saying. And then at the end she says, even if I didn't put them in my story, it helped my vocation. Is the vocation motherhood? I'm not sure. So that's saying even if it doesn't seem important, these small things help make a huge difference, especially to kind of family life and things. That is just such a brilliant exploration of the weird kind of contrasts and not troubles, but the sort of weird mental gymnastics that you often do as a woman. It's like I really enjoy doing this, but should I enjoy doing it? But then it's typical woman, and I know that I should enjoy doing it, but should I say that I don't enjoy doing it just because I've been told that I should like doing it? Or and it's ridiculous, it really is. And I think it's all about being completely authentic, and it goes back to the very first lines in this poem. You know, authenticity is the most important thing. I really want pasta again. But we've run out of mixed herbs, so it's not going to happen, unfortunately. Yeah. Anywhoobs, I'm going to read out another poem that's from the end of the collection, and I think this section speaks for itself, so I'm not actually going to really go into kind of detail with it too much. So yeah, I'm just going to read the section now. And this is from The Past's Future by Dolly Turing. Our past presents itself now in threatening letters to loved elders whose home is here, who once welcomed to Britain as young folks, descended from the people, ancestors of this country stole, sold across oceans as slaves into the hardest life on those soft wave shores, the ones who survived and broke finally free into a world which has never yet stopped trampling on those bones, those humans, adding accretion to inheritance trauma, constant battleground to be known as human, to live in peace, share in and hold wide, network of love and all, for those ghosts that haunt the bones, raised each time words are spoken or threats or guns are raised. The windrush, an opening of its time, another expectation of servitude to previous powers now in need. And I think that is incredibly powerful, really strong poem to end this on. It's just so vivid and punchy and says exactly what it means, and it's the fact that, yeah, I don't know, it's just, it really kind of hit me. I think now if you've seen my anti-racism video, you'll know kind of a lot about my stories with this sort of thing, and yeah, it just really hit me, did that one, and just reading it out now is kind of like, oh my god. And I think that's another thing that poetry is incredible for. It's incredible for activism, and to really powerfully, so powerfully say things that, you know, if you just explain, well, in 19 whatever this happened, well, in 17 whatever they did this, it's not, a lot of people switch off from that. And I think with poetry, you know, like, that is so, like, you know, it just smacks you round the face, and it's like, I don't know. So yeah, that is spells, and I really hoped that you enjoyed this video. I will leave links below to where you can buy it from, and yeah, I hope you enjoy it. If you've read it, let me know what you think, and if you like the video, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know why I'm chucking it around, put it down. If you liked the video, then like it and subscribe, and I will see you again very, very shortly. Bye.